we are live, it looks like here. So, everybody, welcome to the first panel this morning. This is Converting to Other Mediums. We're going to be talking about where Lit RPG is getting a foothold and what do we hope to see going forward. I'm moderating the panel. My name is Jay Baraz, and I am a level 50 birthday troll because it is my birthday today, so that's why I am. We're going to go around here and have all of our panelists introduce themselves. Start with you, Ryan, since you were in here first today.
Oh, okay. Hi, my name is Ryan DeBruin. I'm an author in Lit RPG, more specifically probably the post-apocalyptic genre. Best known for Ether Collapse series, which is present-day Earth, Canadian version of Apocalypse with the system getting introduced.
All right, Abby.
Yeah, I'm Abby Goldsmith, and I'm the author of the Torth series. Got my first book out. 4 books are out so far. The last 2 will be coming out next year. And I'm always working on something new.
Awesome. Brian.
Right. So, you want to go first, Brian?
Yes,
nope,
absolutely. Sean, go first.
Okay, so I'm Sean Oswald. I am the author of 51 Lit RPG novels now. The 51st will publish next Monday, and that's the final book in the Dragon Sorcerer series. I write under both my name and a pen name, David Burke. I do not know what I'm best known for because I think some people like one series and other people like a different one. So,
okay, I can 100% answer what you're best known for. It's writing quite fast. In the author community, that's what you're known for, topping the leaderboard in every single, word count goal. Also, I do love I'm 50. I'm just like, I wrote 51 books. That was just a very fun flex for me. I'm Brian. I wrote Quest Academy. It's an academy like kids, 18-year-olds learning how to become heroes to fight against the demonic war that has kind of overtaken society 60 years in the future. With superpowers and lots of crafting focus, quite slice of life in certain aspects. But yeah, it's fun.
Excellent series. I haven't got to. I've read some of Ryan's stuff. I've read some of Abby. I haven't got to Abby's or Sean's yet. Obviously, I read Quest Academy because it's on my shelf right here behind me. You can't see it, but it's too far away. All right. So, other mediums. We got Royal Road, Amazon, webtoons, TV, animated series, movies. We know about Royal Road, but I think we had a panel on that yesterday, talking about Royal Road and getting everything posted on there. And moving to other mediums. What do you guys think is the next move that we're going to be doing that Lit RPG is going to be going to? Well, what kind of medium are we going to move into next? Ryan seems to have an answer because he's smiling and nodding.
Well, there's a couple answers there, and I think the big one obviously involves Dungeon Crawler Carl, and I think I've heard rumors that Few Fights with Monsters is also in talks for some of that stuff, and that is, it looks like there will be a very large mainstream push where either it's a TV series, live action, or otherwise, or a movie, which any of those would be incredible, but once that happens, that's kind of the gong gets rung, right? And I believe that anything that's happening is going to be huge. Like I know already that Primal Hunter has a web serial, not a web serial, webtoon, sorry, on Webtoons. And it's really cool to see that happening as well. There's Beginning After the End as well with comics. So that is already starting to take off, I think. But I'm curious what will happen with your question specifically. I think it's when TV series and stuff like that happen that, it's going to just blow up.
All right, Sean, what do you think on this?
So first, the disclaimer. I told Geneva I'd do any of the panels. I'm completely and utterly unqualified to be on this panel. But
okay, so am I.
But beyond that, the things that I'm seeing, I see tons of web comics, and that is really being spread out. The webtoon stuff too. I saw and enjoyed and watched twice the Solo Leveling anime, and I would dream of animes being made at that quality. The problem is that each episode costs what, $1 million+ to make. So it's not like we're suddenly going to get 50 lit RPG series turned into anime. Now, over time, sure, great, but and then the Dungeon Crawler Carl thing, I completely agree with Ryan. I do have a nervousness reaction to that, though, too, because the more mainstream something becomes, the more gatekeepers there are, the more people defining what this needs to be. Right now, lit RPG is everything under the sun, and we all write. I mean, I've read Abby's book, Ryan's book, Brian's books. In fact, Brian, my 29-year-old daughter, and I were talking about how she sometimes hates Sal and sometimes she loves him. I do I enjoy all of the breadth of lit RPG, and not a single one of them writes the same way. And I don't want us to have to write to fit somebody else's standards. I want us to be able to write the beauty of the breadth of lit RPG. That said, I'm thrilled for what Matt is accomplishing, both happy for him as an individual and happy for the way in which it can expand our audience. I really think, though, that the best thing that could happen is for it to expand our audience more than it to truly become a mainstream concept.
Good. Abby, you got
Yeah.
anything?
I mean, yeah, I would agree with all of that. Like, I do think that lit RPG is kind of like a playground right now. So we're seeing a lot of innovation for sure. All kinds of wacky ideas. I come from an animation background and also from game dev. So, right now, indie game dev is like kind of a crazy frontier, and it would be really cool if indie game developers and indie authors could hook up and start helping each other a little more. But, I think we might start seeing some crossover more in that area. Yeah. Sorry, what?
No, I was just saying thanks to Dawn. She said happy birthday to me. So,
Oh, okay.
Brian, what do you think?
It's interesting to me because, like, as Sean said, Solo Leveling, I think, is the first time we've seen a Korean story then translated into English, then English translated story, then going into manhwa, and then manhwa then going into anime. Because Legendary Moonlight Sculptor only got as far as the manhwa side, as in it did the same steps, but then only got to manhwa. This was the first big adaptation within the mainstream, progression fantasy lit RPG side of things. So I find it very interesting watching Webtoon now, because you see with Aethon, a lot of the times they have, was it Mark of the Fool, I think is one, Pirate Abbott, I think is one. They're all potentially getting adaptations. And you see Actus has 2 or 3 up at the moment. And Actus came directly from Royal Road. So it's really interesting seeing all of these ones going through that way. And because, as you say, it's a fledgling sort of, community in this, and we're still testing the waters. If you came 2 years ago and said, what's the next big thing? Everyone would have said Yonder. And then, and it was just Yonder is going to be... that shit the bed. But still, as in, there's all of these things where we're testing things as a community and we're going in different verticals. So while it's absolutely extraordinary for Dungeon Crawler Carl to be going down the maybe, I don't know, the animation or live action or whatever that may end up turns out to be, versus, the comics route, I think it's really, really interesting. And I think it's absolutely right of seeing the audience growing and expanding and then finding us through different ways. But I personally think that it'll probably be the webtoons which will become more adoption sort of thing, because that's a voracious market. So I think that's probably what'll happen soonest for all of us.
Awesome. All right, now Abby was mentioning about games before, so that I personally think there's a lot of potential for moving lit RPG stories into game formats. What do you guys think of different lit RPGs going into formats, and what one lit RPG story would you like to see move into some sort of a game format? So start with that, Abby, on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually reading Defiance of the Fall right now. I'm on book 5, and I think that one has potential. The thing is, it's like a lot of these, they kind of would require like AAA budgets. So like there's kind of a schism in the game industry where most indie developers do not have budgets like that. So it really depends on, like for instance, like my Torth series, it's a social media hive mind. So it would probably lend itself to an MMO kind of style game, which could be done, I think, as an indie dev. But, it would just take, it really just depends on what resources. So, yep.
Yeah, no one has budget anymore, definitely not. No, I'm talking just moving things in games in general. Sorry, my stutter's coming up this morning. I haven't had enough caffeine yet. But if you didn't have to have a budget, though, if you didn't have to worry about a budget, you go AAA, big name. What would you want to go? What game would you want to see? What would you want to see come into a game?
I mean, I think some of the big ones like Defiance of the Fall, He Who Fights with Monsters, I just think a lot of them would blend pretty well because a lot of lit RPG authors are system builders. Like we enjoy building crazy magic systems, create like very solid systems, and that's what games, you need that for games. So, yeah.
Ryan, what do you think? What do you think about moving to games, getting into games, and what would you like to see brought in?
Brian or Ryan? Sorry, that's a great question.
I'm sorry, Ryan.
Okay. Sorry, Brian. So my personal take on this is there's been a couple that have tried, to create a game out of their own books. So I know, for example, Falcon Lowe, Jeffrey Falcon Lowe has his game actually right now on stream, Slime Evo or something like that. I know that Paul Bellows tried to create a game out of his stuff. And right now, the people that are trying to make a game seem to really want to hold on to the reins of what's happening, which is really limiting, as Abby kind of pointed out, what can be done. And so budget-wise, that's really hindering. And obviously, then it's hard to get them off the ground. But I believe on Steam, that some of them are available. That being said, I would love to see more get made into games, but with how epic a lot of lit RPGs are, I doubt anything could do it justice without having like an open world MMORPG, because a lot of them are such expansive worlds. Like Defiance of the Fall is probably one of my favorites, and I'd love to see that because it seems like that world just keeps growing, and it grows in such a way that you kind of, as you reach the power cap of whatever, B rank, A rank, whatever it is, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then he's going to go more interior. And that would be a cool world in the sense of like a World of Warcraft-esque game where you end up having these expansions that grow your gaming platform. So yeah, that'd be really cool. I would love to see it. I just think Abby is 100% on point when she says to have the budget to do that is one thing, but then to have the fan base buy in and have millions of players subscribe so you can continue to do it justice.
Definitely agree with you on that. Brian, what do you think?
So this is an interesting one. So to go on to the like dream company sort of thing, I'm incredibly biased because I've already worked with the greatest, games company in the world. So I'm like, yes, I would like Larian to do this. But the other side of it would be I'd probably go with Quest Academy because I love writing the story so much. And I'd love to see it kind of like a Persona style. In terms of game mechanics of the, you do your activities, so you could see Sal crafting, like on the various days, and then like, as the timer keeps going towards like the next dungeon run or things like that. So those sort of mechanics really work for me. So either that or old school Squaresoft, like the Final Fantasy games. So that's the way I'd kind of see it, or maybe, yeah. But just on the games adaptation side, a realistic point of this, I think, is tabletop. Because I think a lot of our immersive worlds could be very easily put into the role play frameworks, like, because there's just so much there that we'd be able to apply across, and there's so many like varied systems, so it doesn't have to be 5th edition D&D, because like Blades in the Dark is very like heist focused and flashbacks and like territory management, and that's like an absolutely brilliant one for an apocalypse setting, or like there's a lot of really cool ones, and I think that's the leap that a lot of us will end up taking in the next period of time.
Definitely on the tabletop. Creating a tabletop RPG out of a Blood RPG series definitely has its challenges. I know that from personal experience on that one, as I helped create the initial Land tabletop RPG, which has been changed and moved around at this point. But yeah, that was definitely a fun experience for that. Sean, what do you think about moving to games?
Well, so games, first off, I think Kyle Wilkinson just made a comment that is very appropriate to this. I struggle to find any intellectual property that I liked as a book that has then been made into any other format. Solo Leveling maybe is the only one that I can think of that I'm happy with the other format that it's been made into, especially when you're talking made into an immersive game or into Netflix show or whatever. Like I loved The Witcher, but I'd never read a single Witcher book or played a single Witcher game. So I didn't have any bias about how they handled things. But I hated Aragon, I think somebody mentioned, because I enjoyed the books but didn't like the movie. I think one of the issues with an MMO for this, though, is that a lot of the appeal of the of Lit RPG is the uniqueness of the main character. So when you're playing in a world where everybody has to be relatively equal and they have to have some sort of rock paper scissors balancing system, that doesn't work, because name for me any big Lit RPG where the main character isn't distinctly special in some way and probably overpowered. Even the ones that attempt not to be too overpowered, they tend to stand out a lot. And we say that's because they're the MC and we wouldn't follow them if they were just anybody else. So then if you make it single player, then you're making it where you have to play as that person or that character or a variant of that. And to me, that would probably have more appeal that would keep it true to the Lit RPG feel. But I don't know. I'm horrible. I play video games all the time, but I skip all the dialogue. I walk out of the room for the cutscenes that you can't skip. I just want to watch my numbers on the stat sheet go up. So I am a true Lit RPG junkie, even when I play video games.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm watching all these comments pop up about the Aragon movie. Yeah, that was a total hack job, definitely, on that one. That is definitely a problem with converting to other mediums. I think is if authors can maintain control.
Jay, I'm having trouble hearing you.
Oh, let me switch headsets.
Just as he's doing that and he's switching headsets, I will add that actually what Brian said with the tabletop games, there's some people that have already done some of that as well. Like I know that Dakota had a game that he was giving away on some of his, not giving away, but sorry, was selling as well as giving as a gift at cons. And then the Snowballs, both John and Shammy, I believe actually have play a lot of their books and systems out in a tabletop variation. So I know you're right, probably Brian, that will happen.
Yeah, because if you think about the sort of frameworks within our stories, is that they break the conventional mold of what a video game is able to do. So you have a lot of people in the early days being like, "Oh, this isn't possible. Like this has no game balance," and you're like, "That's the fucking point. It's a book." Yeah. So, but then if you put that into a tabletop environment, you're only ever limited by imagination and the rule set that's kind of in place. So it's just like, oh yeah, upgrade your VR rig, and then it's just like, here's a token. You know what I mean? So it's the suspension of disbelief is separated from it.
Definitely. All right, is that better? You guys can hear me better now?
Oh, yeah. Way better.
Yes.
I came off my earbuds, so I thought they were going to be working fine, but I guess not. So. Okay. Oh, Josh has a little bit of a little question for Sean there. Sorry, Sean, you skipped the cutscenes the first time you play, or you
Pretty much, yeah.
Replays.
Pretty much.
No, or all the time. Like, even if you don't know what it is, do you skip that cutscene?
Pretty much, yeah. I can't
God.
tell you. I can't tell you how neurodivergent I am. I get it. But the all I care about in the video game is literally, I don't even care about beating the boss. I just care about the numbers on my stat sheet going up. So,
you know what? Don't play The Witcher. I was about to tell you, play The Witcher. It's amazing. It's much better than the series. But no, you won't appreciate it. You're not allowed to play The Witcher now. I'm gatekeeping, okay? They are closed.
If I remember right with The Witcher, don't kill all the cows. That's the only thing I remember about those games. All right, so now going back a little bit here, Ryan popped up a question a little while ago. Kyle kind of answered it, so did Don. For a game, wouldn't it make more sense for a game company to buy the rights to use a book story to be put into a game? So buy the rights to the IP so they could convert it into a game. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, like, I'll just say real quick, like, I used to work at a third-party game developer, and they would usually get, like, they would bid on, like, so game developers bid on different projects, and so they would have me read the scripts because nobody there wanted to read books. So I was the reader, right? So they're like, all right, we got the property to make the game Jumper based on the movie, based on the book. So read the book, Abby. What do you think? And that's about how it goes. So the author is very far removed usually from these processes.
So.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say the option that you get a lot of times, as my understanding from a script writing point of view, so this might not be specific to games, but authors usually get their book optioned, which means like they get an X amount of dollars, let's call it $1,000 or something like that, and that means that a studio or somebody like that has first rights to that story, and then it says like, oh, if your book gets turned into a game or a movie, you'll get X amount of dollars after that fact. So really what you get is kind of a promissory note saying, here's $1,000 just so nobody else can steal out, He Who Fights with Monsters or some large thing. And then it goes through all these production steps that 99% of content never makes it through. They can drop out at any one of 1,000 steps in there. And a lot, even other stuff gets all the way to a pilot episode or something like that being recorded. And then still there's 10 other ones and they're bid on and you drop out at the very end. So that would be, your stuff is like, I guarantee there's people out there that I've talked to that have had their things optioned and nothing has come of it. So a lot of authors are super hesitant to do that as well, because as soon as it is optioned by someone, you've lost it for X amount of years and you can't get it back until that option has expired, whatever that is. So that's just a little bit of back into the industry, I guess.
Yeah. Sean, Brian, do you want to chime in on this one?
The other thing is the market share. Like, if you were to, like, you have to remember that if you're creating a game that is based off a book, then your potential market is like, you would, how much are we going to get, and what vitriol are we inviting by not doing it justice? So they have to have such a sure bet that they're going to make their money back. Now, the other thing as well is how much of a dick is the IP holder is the other part of it. As in, like, is Brian going to be easy to work with? Is he going to be there on the minutiae of every single dialogue choice? Is he going to start doing scope creep and be like, oh, by the way, oh, this is absolutely amazing. I was thinking of adding a 17th act. Okay. We're just going to do all, there's so many things in it, and the cost is explosive. So I feel it's very, very funny. The only way I would ever look at this is if a games company approached me where they had already figured out how they do it. rather than me going to a game studio and being like, hey, let's figure this out. So that's the only way this would operate for me. But you see so many times where people are working on someone else's IP, their heart isn't in it because it's not something they chose. It's something that was chosen for them. And they how much creative freedom will they have as designers, as developers, as all of these things? They'll probably just want to go with a safe bet. I'd be like, let's just put it out. It's fine if it gets like a 60 on Metacritic. It's grand. Let's just move on to the next one. So that's what happens in a lot of cases where you have it's that's how I see it. So and the whole IP thing, and getting the right and stuff, you have to also factor in the motivations of the staff that's making it. If they're not pumped to be like, holy shit, I'm working on a Brian book, it's like, and realistically, that's not going to be the case. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my god, Sal's such a pussy. I hate this main character. I'm just like, why am I making this game
all the time? Yeah, exactly. We've seen those comments, but
yeah.
Sean, you got it.
Yeah. So three thoughts. First, I fear that what Abby says is really true. That when they're using source material, a lot of times the people who are actually making decisions don't really care to know anything about the source material, and if they don't, then how are they ever going to stay on it? Then I think that the danger of blowback that Brian's talking about. I mean, I loved the Captain America movie, the Iron Man movie, the Thor movie. Those were all great. But then they did the Infinity Gauntlet, and the Infinity Gauntlet is my favorite comic book crossover of all time. And they completely changed, to me, the motivations for Thanos and ruined it for me, to the point that I didn't even finish the second movie in that on the Infinity Gauntlet.
It was eye candy, but yeah, they butchered the Infinity Gauntlet series.
Right. And then, with all of this that is going on, how much would you, my fellow authors, have to be paid to give your IP to somebody and have no control over what they do with that IP? I mean, there's a number. I'm sure there's a number for all of us, okay? But for me, it wouldn't be a very small number. If somebody wanted to write me $100,000 check and then take my Life in Exile series and they were going to twist the characters to stand on their head, I would pass up the $100,000. Now, if they made it $1 million, okay. I don't know. I don't know what the point is. But what about everybody? There's a lot of creatives who are listening to this too, and I wonder how they too would feel about seeing your IP completely twisted.
Yeah, no, that's a really big one, and I think that's one I feel strongly about. I've thought about it, and you're right. The number for me wouldn't be small. I don't want to see it ruined. I know other authors are completely fine with that. They're like, well, it was just a silly thing, and I only spent a year on it. But I spent a long time on mine, so yeah.
I think everyone, like Sean was saying, everyone's going to have a number, but it's depending on the person and which particular IP they're after. It's going to be a larger number for some of it. I know Brian will sell his for a bottle of whiskey, so that's in this.
How dare you? It has to be a good bottle of whiskey. Thank you very much.
Of course. But I don't know good whiskey from bad. I never drank whiskey to begin with. So
yeah.
All right. So let's flip it around a little bit here. So we were talking about putting lit RPG into games. What about moving? What do you guys think would be moving a game into lit RPG format? I mean, I know we have Dungeons and Dragons out there. World of Warcraft books are out there as well. What's Eric saying here? All depends on the money, enough money, and what you can do. And you can do what you want. Now got enough scratch to make another world without pressure. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Valid. Very valid. So I guess it's just a matter of that. But what I was saying though, what do you guys think about?
Well, I mean, but the thing is, I think it can taint your brand. Like if it's a really, really terrible adaptation, that's what everyone's going to remember.
Dune.
I mean, I was thinking more like Jumper, Wheel of Time, a few others.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm old. Leave me alone.
So be nice to the senile old man.
Yes.
Sorry, Sean, you are much younger. I know what age you are. I'm sorry, you're younger.
No, I'm older than him, and yeah, so senile too.
you just sit over there
Get
and
off my lawn.
skip your cutscenes. You skip your cutscenes, okay? But like we saw with Aragon, okay, that like Christopher Paolini, the books, the Inheritance Saga, I don't care if I get lynched for this. I was like, they're mediocre books. It's like just like it's very much the hero's journey, and like ABC, you're just following the script. But nobody really talks about the books anymore. They're just like, oh my god, how shit was that movie? Like when you hear Aragon, you don't immediately think of the books. You now think of the terrible movie. So I absolutely agree with the tainting of the personal brand. But yeah, my number wouldn't be that high. As in like, because I'd be like, is Quest Academy the best series I can ever write? No. Will it be brilliant? Yes. But like, is it going to be the best I can do? No. So I'd rather have money that can fund my next one, and that I can just do like without pressure.
Yeah.
So the question was about bringing games in, right? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
sorry.
what do you guys think about? Sorry, we kind of bounced off of that one. So yeah, what do you guys think about reversing it, taking a game and turning it into lit RPG stories?
So on that front, I think that one of the best uses of that is pop cultural references from games. I've done this with various video games because there are things that stick out. I mentioned a cow level in one of my books, which is a Diablo thing that
Classic.
maybe us older people know, but that's the sort of little fun that connects people, and that's one of the beautiful things about lit RPG. But my first series was a homebrew D20 game that I played with my friends, that I DM'd for them, and then turned it back into a lit RPG novel. And I think that those things blend very well, and borrowing concepts from games is inherent in what we do. I mean, we play games because that's the kind of people we are, and we like different aspects of the gameplay, not the cut scenes or anything, but of the gameplay, and that probably influences the way that we design the mechanics for whatever system we're using.
What do the rest of you guys think on that one? Sean's making a pretty good point with the pop culture references.
Sorry, just to jump in on this, and sorry, I'd like to be the cynic on this. The question is almost like, how comfortable would any writer be with being a ghostwriter? And then it's a question is like, okay, you're going to be a ghostwriter, and then your split is actually going to be far reduced from what you're used to. And you're going to write something that may invite vitriol. And you're like, that number would need to be very high, because like we're all kind of creatives and we want to write our stories. We want to write our characters. We want to do them justice and see their journey. To take a game and then write it as lit RPG, unless we created that game, I think that we're in for a bad time, because like everyone is going to have like it was Ryan De Bruin that did it, but like I was looking for more of a Sean Oswald style, like and you're going to invite all of these sort of issues. So adaptations are very, very difficult when it's the same fan base across them. So it's like if someone found Quest Academy as a webtoon and they're like, oh, I really like this, they don't need to know it was a book. Like just like let them have it. But every gamer that's kind of like, I'm not saying every gamer is a reader, but there's a massive crossover. But yeah, sorry, no, I personally think that it wouldn't work.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, it has been done, but like it's exactly what Brian said. I mean, it's ghostwriting, and every author has to make that choice themselves if they want to do that or not.
We want the voices in our head to stop yelling that we are doing it wrong. Characters are so bossy. We don't. I found this just in writing my own books. We don't control the characters. We're just writing down what the fuck they're doing. They decide what's going to happen in the story. At least that's what mine do. See, Eric, it's a difficult question because you're looking to write within someone else's world, so it really depends on the IP and the money. If I could write in the 40K universe, I probably would jump. Yeah, that's the 40K universe. I mean, you got some of these universes that are set up. They've been around for so long that I think you could do some. But
all this stuff has already been done, right? Like, so
yeah,
you look at like World of Warcraft. There's whole series out there written from, side characters in those, like in this series, etc. And there's books written about it, right? And there's same with 40K, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
And Halo.
Halo. And so all this stuff has been done. The thing you got to remember is how successful are those? And I don't think it's as successful. That's kind of what Brian is saying is, the game itself had so much popularities in all these cases that people have, other people have invested and say, let's write some books because it will carry over. But how much crossover between games and readership do we actually have, right? I don't think it's as much as we hope. We'd love it to be bigger, but actually, I would argue that gaming, movies, TV is our direct competition for readership, right? Like if we're trying to get readers, we actually want them off their console and off their TV and reading our books, right? So I think that, as Brian said, it's just not going to work. It's kind of one of those, I wouldn't do it personally. I know there are authors out there, and I've seen them on panels, and they get paid X amount of dollars to write a Star Trek story. But it is so confining when I hear what they're saying. It's like, oh, I was given that this has to happen. I turned in my rough draft of my outline, and they told me I couldn't do X, Y, and Z. So then I redid it, and I gave it back to them. And so you're losing your creativity too. So it's I don't think I'd do it.
Right. Eric's making another point here. Said none of those have been written from a lit RPG standpoint. 40K books have only been written from a traditional sci-fi fantasy methodology. I think that's the same thing for like Warcraft and Dungeons and Dragons especially is so huge out there with all the novels for those. But I don't think any of them actually been written into a lit RPG format. Do you think that there's potential for that to write the stories into the lit RPG format rather than just in the sci-fi fantasy?
It's a good point, and somebody should try it, but I wouldn't want to be the one to do it.
I mean,
Eric seems to agree with you on that one.
Yeah, Eric, like you're taking something that's a huge umbrella, sci-fi, fantasy, and if we're an umbrella under that umbrella, right? So, I mean, it would be great, and maybe it takes off in our genre, but I doubt it. I don't think it's going to be bigger than the sci-fi fantasy umbrella that actually pulls more fans in.
So,
Definitely.
I might be wrong in this assessment, but I think one of the ways to potentially target the indie authors with projects like this would be the guarantee of print in stores, because that's one of the key things that would probably get me, because I have the ebook domain, I have the audiobook domain. Those things are healthy and fine. But when it comes to print, that's an area that a lot of the indies are kind of like, I would give up the print rights to someone else if it meant getting more money and getting into shops and storefronts. So if there was a certain pedigree with the world that you're going to be writing in, that it was I could do this justice and I'm given creative reign. Yes. And if you're passionate about that, then yes, I think that could really, really work. Like if I was told hey, Brian, would you like to write a book in Vampire the Masquerade? I'd be like, oh, I need to think about this for 14 seconds, but the answer is yes. So and it just can I just write a Ventrue character, like an absolute capitalistic bastard? And they're like, yes, it's vampires. I'm like, fucking go.
I think Stuart has made a good point a couple times in the comments that there's a difference between I'm going to write in Vampire the Masquerade and it's going to be officially licensed as part of Vampire the Masquerade, okay? Versus I'm going to write a book that uses some of the mechanics from that world. Not maybe everything, but some of it. Stuart mentioned that one of his series uses the D&D 3.5 rules. Well, guess what? A bunch of my series use some of those rules. They touch upon it. They tweak and move because everything doesn't fit exactly in a novel the way that it does at a gaming session. And as much as we toy with the idea of liking randomness in a book, and I did toy with this. I started a series where I was rolling dice for hits and things like that, and I gave up on it. I gave up on it because it lends itself to a great gaming session, but it does not lend itself to a great book. And so I think there's a difference between I'm going to write in this universe officially, and I'm co-opting everything there and just writing my own story that's consistent with it, versus I'm going to borrow principles and I'm going to borrow thematic elements that may be here, but they're probably also in other places, or mechanics that are here but are other places. I think he's right in that regard as to how we as lit RPG authors probably incorporate things that we may not even realize we're always incorporating elements from the games we've played, the books we've read, the movies we've watched.
Definitely got to bring it all in with that. So let's go ahead and switch a little bit here because Brian kind of touched on this about the ebook market versus the print in actual physical stores. So what do you guys think about the prevalence of Amazon? I'm pretty sure all of you guys are on Amazon. Your books are selling on Amazon now, compared to the indie publishing versus traditional publishing. Is it going to be the way to go for it, or? Sean definitely has a strong opinion about this. I can see it on his face.
I mean, when I think of trade publishing, I think of a single 4-letter word, and that would be evil. Because, I mean, anyone who rips 90% of the profit away from a creative, along with a bunch of their control, that's a bad model for me. I also remember the 90s, the 2000s, up until about 2015 or 16 when I found Kindle Unlimited. I went to the bookstore on an almost weekly basis and walked out almost every week without a new book to read. Now, yes, I have I read fantasy with a touch of sci-fi maybe, but there were no new series coming out that were written for me to enjoy. And so I had to wait for the next Wheel of Time or, whatever, the next Raymond Feist novel to come out. Today, I read a lot of books, and I still can't possibly keep up with everything that's coming out in just one genre, lit RPG. So to me, there's no comparison. Indie is the much greater friend to authors and the much greater friend to readers than Trade Pub ever was. Maybe Trade Pub played a role back in the day when books had to be printed on a press and the average individual could never access that. I also am a huge advocate of electronic or mediums, so ebooks or audiobooks over physical books, just for the simple reason that there's so much less strain on the environment and so much less of an impact in that way. I do think that paper books should exist because electronic files can be changed, but I no longer have the need to have 500 books in my library because I walk around with my phone and I've got 1 million books at my fingertips.
Definitely a valid point. Ryan, what do you chime on this one?
So I agree to a certain extent that without the indie publishing side that's available on Amazon and the ebook, and the fact that they can print for you if you really want it. Without that existing, I don't even think Lit RPG would really be able to be a thing right now, right? So there's that side to it, which is really cool. But I do have to argue a little bit and become argumentative in the sense that there were certain things that were missing a little bit in when you're an indie publisher, and TradPub is doing them, and that's why they're still around. I don't think that they should be specifically, that they shouldn't have like a stranglehold on it, but they are doing certain back of house things and editing and covers and a lot of other things that we're now trying to take and learn from still, right? Like we're trying to, make our covers better. We're trying to make sure our editing processes go better and all that stuff. I personally am trying to study trad publishing to make sure that I am hitting those things and making a sustainable market for myself as an author. So you're creating something that's longer lasting. What I don't like about trad publishing is kind of what Sean already hit on, which is that they were 100% gatekeepers of, the readership. They kind of had this idea that they knew they had their finger on the pulse and they knew what everybody wanted to read, and they would tell people that their story wasn't going to be good and other things. And they've made huge mistakes in that on the side where they've given, I want to say an author, one of the funniest stories, they gave some author like $1 million for their series because it was very much a current issue. I think it had woke stuff in it and a whole bunch of other stuff and a lot of LGBTQ stuff and everything. And so they were like, this is going to be a big, huge hit. This is where society is going. And they lost almost that entire $1 million basically on that investment. So, they're wrong and they're right in certain scenarios. And I think, you got to just look at somebody like Travis Baldree, who went trad publishing, and just look at how much we all love him in the Lit RPG community and how well his book is received. I know that his book isn't 100% Lit RPG, but like that's, an example of it done right. And I think trad publishing can still do that and reach out and get an audience for us as authors. So I wouldn't discount trad publishing at all. Yeah. I would take that opportunity if it was there under the right circumstances. But I do love that we have indie because we get to write these amazing stories that I read on a daily basis. So, and I don't think trad publishing still would pick up a lot of our stuff. So,
I definitely like what Maria just said. The ease of getting the ebooks. When running TBR, it might exist. No one's TBR is ever going to be empty, Maria. Let's face it. Mine has, I probably have like 200 or 300 books on it right now. But yeah, you don't have to wait. If I finish an audiobook while I'm out working, I can just grab a new one off Audible and throw it on my phone, and there we go. But I do like having physical copies though of my favorite books. So here's those are a bunch I have right there. That's Quest Academy. That's Arise. That's Jack Field's book right there. I got more on the shelf below, but you can't see them. All right. Yes, I know. We've already talked about that, Toes. You're going to add to my TBR. You did that last night. Ryan just popped up a question, though. I'll probably go with this one now. What about all the people who still share in the story that would never have read this, that would have never have read this? I can't even read today. Thinking about all the people who watch the MCU stuff that never opened a comic.
I think that really depends on the quality. I mean, how well the adaptation was done. Like if it's tainted, it's tainted. But if it's done pretty well, or even just halfway decently, I do think you're right that does open up a huge new audience for that IP, and it can. That's what makes or break. That's what turns you into like Stephen King or J.K. Rowling.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? No.
See, that's the thing. It's like it's not a point I'd argue. As in, like, it would be great, and yes, I understand the key appeal of adaptations and things. It's just that we have to work within what we've got. Like on the previous question about like the print books and stuff like that, a part of me is sad that thousands of my readers have never seen my covers in color, because they've purchased it on a Kindle and they've read it on a Kindle. Like, my childhood was going into bookshops and literally going to be like, what has Feist put out? What has Eddings put out? Yikes. After the fact. And what has Gamel put out? And like, you're essentially just like going through all of these things and like just looking at the cover and judging them by the cover, and like that stuff that I feel is kind of gone now. And knowing that, yeah, like it's beautiful, but it's how, like, I would love to have that sense of discovery that if someone was perusing those shelves, they might be able to find mine. And Amazon takes away a lot of that joy. But it's still a profitable machine. So I'd never, ever kind of like, be jealous of the trad side. Because like, this is what gives me a lifestyle. It's not like I'm asking for the vanity points of, oh, by the way, I'm a published author. It's now a case of like, no, I'm a financially secure author. So I'd take that over the vanity any day.
Yeah, I mean, I still think traditional publishing, when they put all their marketing might behind like they always have like one horse they've bet on. And when they throw all their resources into that person, like Lee Bardugo or somebody like that, Sarah J. Maas, you get like a massive machine going. Of course, they don't always bet on the right horse, and it doesn't always work. And most of their people, they're not betting on them to that degree. So yeah. But of course, we all want that to be us.
I mean, the recent court cases pulled back the veil a lot to let us know exactly how trade publishing makes their money. And we found out that they make almost all their money on a very small percentage of their books. One of the things that strikes me about them, because they have clauses in contracts limiting the ability of the author to publish any other books or the pace at which they can publish books, because they specifically want to slow it down. I believe if you look at the number of books that the average American reads, trade publishing is perfect for them, because they're putting out books for people who read a book a month or 6 books a year, and that's great. Then they want to find the 6 best books that they can sell to the tens of millions of people. That is not our readers. Our readers tell me, hey, I loved your book that you just took 3 months writing and editing and whatnot, and I read it this morning. And yeah, I know it was 800 pages, but I read it this morning. When's the next one going to be out? We have a different audience than the trade publishing audience. And for that, I'm grateful, because like Brian said, the esteem would be nice, but I'd much rather be financially secure doing this.
Mm-hmm. Definitely agree. I think the one big problem that the genre has, the LARPG genre has right now with the fan base, is some of them definitely can get entitled. Oh, you just finished, like you just said. Oh, you just finished the book. When's the next one? Now, when's the next one? When's the next one? When's the next one? Just honestly harassing the authors to put out more content so fast.
Jay, I completely agree, and I don't like to point fingers, but it's Sean Oswald's fault. It's all his fault, because he has trained the entire audience on his cadence, which is like, oh God, I only released 2 books this month. I'm so sorry, guys. I'll try and make it 3. And all of us are like, bitch, it takes me 6 months. And they're all like, oh my God, like other authors like Sean Oswald can do this so much faster than you, Brian.
See, I was thinking you're going to throw Jez under the bus with how fast he writes too.
Well, yeah, there's also the side of Royal Road having, like I think all of them are off of their big backlog. And so now they're all publishing at their actual speed. Whereas for a while, there was so much Royal Road content that was stored up and coming out on, a 3-month, 400,000 word book. And you're like, I can't do that. Like, and Sean, maybe you can. I don't know. Like, obviously you're very quick. But like for me, that was unattainable, and our readership started to get used to that, I think, as well.
We'll get to that.
There you go.
Hey, all right, so we're just about out of time here. I got one more question for you guys. Quick one. Kyle popped it up. So I know I'm in the minority on this. Would we wish, we assuming mean the Lit RPG community, create an audiobook company, like Audible, made specifically for fantasy, sci-fi, Lit RPG?
That is not a bad idea. Yeah. I mean, I think I wouldn't do it, but hey, throw that in the ring of startup ideas. Yeah.
I think you could go to Soundbooth. Soundbooth has their own app and stuff like that. So that's an option.
It really depends on who can get the most rates, as in like the 40, if you're on the 40% or the 25%. You know, if you're going wide, if you're going all in on Amazon. I think there's a lot of things, and then it's like okay, what sort of scheduling can you get for the narrators that aren't booked out? As in, like, you know, if you can guarantee you can get the heavy hitters, and then you're able to put them and already have them in the bank, so that it's faster to go with them rather than doing it yourself, then yeah, it makes sense. But we're currently served quite well with who we have.
Yeah.
So, you know, it chafes me, the percentage on Audible, even when I'm exclusive there. 40% just seems low to me. And I don't understand all the mechanics behind the scene. But going against Amazon, have you looked at what Audible's percentage of actual audiobooks that are sold is? It's pretty staggering. And Amazon has a long-standing track record of being willing to lose money to bury competitors. So I think we'd really be making a dangerous push there to try to do something like that.
Oh no,
I'm not saying it couldn't work, but my suspicion is that at the place that we're at right now, it's not going to work. Maybe if Spotify breaks Audible's hold on certain things, maybe then that would create an opening. But if Spotify isn't being able to do it so far, then why do we think that, you know, whatever company we came up with? My actual answer would be to hire Hans Gruber and his team, send them into Audible, and negotiate new terms for all of the rights holders. So
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker! All right, that's awesome. All right, so we're just about out of time here. So I want to give each of you just a minute here to tell us what you're working on and what you got coming out shortly. I'm going to start with Abby, since ladies first.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I am Abby Goldsmith. I've got a Patreon. I'm pretty easy to find online, just abbygoldsmith.com. And I am currently writing a new epic fantasy series because I like to make things really hard for myself, and I don't write to market. So yeah.
All right, so we're gonna throw up links for you guys for as they come up. Sean, what do you got coming for us?
So next Monday, October 28th, I have the 5th and final book of my Dragon series, or Dragon Sorcerer series, with a dragon as the MC, and not a human who became a dragon, but a dragon with his own truly unique perspective on the world. And then on Tuesday, Podium is releasing on Audible book 4 of my Welcome to the Multiverse series, which is called Resistance. And then on November 4th, I'm releasing book 5 of Welcome to the Multiverse as an ebook. November 19th, audiobook 4 of Dragon Sorcerer comes out. December 9th, the 5th and final book of Crystal Core comes out. And somewhere in December 24th, I think, is the 3rd audiobook of Crystal Core.
You are a machine, Sean. All right, Ryan, how about you? What do you got coming up for us?
Ryan or Brian?
Ryan. R. Canadian.
So I'm currently finishing the edits on Aetherclaps 5. So that is going to be recorded by Luke in March. He's hard to get on the schedule of. So once that's recorded, I think we're going to probably go do a release, but that's going to be up to Mountaindale Press. They may do the ebook first. Then I have an ongoing serial on Royal Road. So if you're looking for something free to read, you can go read New System, Who This. That is there, and it's about almost 2 books are up there. So, you know, something like 900,000 pages. After I'm done Aetherclaps, I'll be working on System Misinterpret. That seems to be a fan favorite that people are asking me for. So that's where I'm at, and keep an eye out, because I'm going to start a new project that, a current project, but just in a new way. So,
all right, Brian.
Oh, I have the most boring answer. As in, wrote book 3, it is out. Audiobook for that comes out on the 28th of January, and I'm halfway, well, no, 3/4 of the way done with book 4, which is over on the Patreon. I think we're on chapter like 60 or something. And yeah, so you can find me there or on Amazon.
and all these great authors are all over the Discord and all the Facebook groups. So you get that, and they love to interact with all of us. So you can get on there and harass them. And what does Audible say? Fans, trolls, and freaks or something like that. All right, and so we're gonna be out of here. We got a takeover coming up here. GL Rathweg, I think is I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he'll be coming up here in just a few minutes. So we will all see you guys on the next time. So everyone, don't forget the princess wave, and we'll see you guys on the next time.